So let's dig in a little bit into like why is small and medium commercial and industrial solar such a drag? In one of our earlier conversations, you likened it to a Rubik's cube, and yeah, there you go. There's your Rubik's cube. So tell us a little bit about like what is the big uncracked nut in this segment of the industry, and why is it such a challenge compared to residential and utility scale solar?
Yeah. Well, let's just look at residential for a second. Well, let's get utility scale out of the way. Utility scale, there's a massive off taker. There's massive security there. Essentially, the margin involved in this project is so large that people are willing to really roll their sleeves up and spend a lot of time on a single problem, a single project with a couple of funders who understand the risk factor in the off-taker, who understand that very specific product, which is essentially selling energy to a utility. So that is both because of its size and because of the consistency of the transaction and the off-taker credit. That is not a challenge. In fact, that's the reason for which there's so many transactions at that level. On the residential side, you essentially have three questions you have to ask the off-taker. What is your credit score? Do you own your building? And is there a history in your background of bankruptcy? And based on that, you can very quickly interpret what credit risk there is, and therefore how much the financing should be for that particular party. You can do it literally instantaneously because it's basically all houses. So when you get into the small to mid C&I, you get into a problem of a massive number of variables. And that's where the Rubik's Cube come in. Let's talk about those variables. If you look at the Rubik's Cube as an example of all the different factors that impact the decision, we will get very quickly an idea of the near impossibility of actually solving this conundrum and why we find it so fascinating. Let's start with red. Where is it? Where in America is this project? Why is that important? Because funders are going to be anything from community development funds, credit unions, specialty banks. They're going to be CPACE programs and organizations, et cetera. So where it is in America, and there are a lot more than 9 squares, right? It's an enormous number of entities that respond to the first question, where's the project? What is it? Is it solar? Is it solar plus storage? Is it solar plus storage plus roofing? Is it a microgrid? Is there LED? Is there efficiency involved, et cetera? So you can imagine, we actually fund hundreds of improvements on the platform, but let's just say there are only 9, which is really modest. How much is it? Is it less than $100,000? Is it less than $250,000, but more than $100,000? Is it less than 500? Less than $1 million? Blah blah blah, et cetera. What type of entity is the off-taker? Is it the mush market? Is it municipal? Is it private school, a nonprofit? Is it a place of worship? Is it a golf course? Right? Is it a industrial space that's used for cannabis? Is it a blah blah blah? Again, 9 doesn't contain the incredible number of entities that it can be. What type of building is it? Right? Is it a building that is owned by partnership? Is it a building that is owned by a major corporation? Are there multiple corporations? Is one of the owners bankrupt in that corporation, right? Et cetera. So again, we're filling far more than each of these sides of the Rubik's Cube. And then finally, what is the tax situation of that entity, right? Is it going to claim transferability? Is it going to need construction financing for direct pay? Does it need to pay back the ITC early in the loan without penalty? What are the circumstances that are specific to that entity? So if we look at all the different combinations that are contained in a Rubik's Cube of possibilities, assuming there are only 9 combinations on each side, Karen, would you care to take a guess at how many different combinations we have contained?
That'll be in the thousands.
Hundreds of thousands, right? A
Hundreds of
very
thousands. Okay, I was
hundreds,
thinking thousands. It's
hundreds of
hundreds.
thousands.
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
like you to consider writing this number in big letters.
It's like 9 to the power 6 at the very least here, but it's you're saying each side has more than 9 possibilities, so it's got to be a bigger
If
number
it
than
were
that.
only 9 possibilities on each cube, Karen,
Yeah,
it
and there's
would
probably
be
more than 6 facets to each project too. Yeah, I get that.
exactly. So if it were only 9 combinations for each, I'm going to give you the number. Okay, it's going to be a long one. Are you ready? The number of combinations, if only 9 possibilities existed on each side, would be 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274,489,856,000 combinations.
I get that. That's a complicated problem.
That is the reason small to medium commercial financing is very difficult. And it's most people fail to understand it because they come from the residential side or the industrial side, the utility side, and they want a fast answer. So that's the problem we're addressing.